Welcome to the subject knowledge assignment. During this presentation, I will talk about the main issues that students have studying modern foreign languages in the UK. Following this, I will describe the pedagogy that underpins the teaching resource and the best way to teach grammar in MFL. Then, I will explain the rationale for the use of the resource within a lesson. And finally, I will share the reflections on the impact of the resource on pupils' learning. There has been a great debate about the students in the United Kingdom and their lack of interest when learning a second language in recent years. The figures show that motivation and engagement of foreign language learning are high in primary education. However, when the pupils start secondary school, the reports present that the disengagement and boredom increase, especially at the end of year 7. This trend continues through secondary education. Also, Ofsted's review finds complex reasons why relatively few peoples in England opt to continue studying languages, including issues of motivation and the quality of transition between primary and secondary school. One of the main factors causing this problem is that teaching has failed to challenge and engage pupils. This means that the resources and activities chosen by the teachers have not motivated the students for learning. Less learning happens and fewer memories are formed if students are just not motivated to learn in first place. This means that the teacher needs to plan high quality lessons with engaging resources to create a positive learning environment. According to the latest Ofsted report, a high quality language grammar lesson may have grammatical progression. The teacher has to build a new concept based on the previous knowledge. Description and practice of the grammatical concept. The teacher introduces the new grammar and plan activities to practice through reading and listening. Productive use of grammar. It is essential to create tasks where pupils will produce their own writing using the grammar learned. And finally, revisit the same grammar in different contexts to include tasks where the pupils can use the grammar recently learned with the previous knowledge. I want to start describing the pedagogy that underpins the teaching resource, mentioning the aspects of learning framework. The different learning theories are divided into three main groups: social, intellectual, and dispositional. It is important to know how the students learn and the different approaches to create effective lessons. The resource I have chosen include the three aspects. The main teaching approach that underpins the rationale behind my chosen resource is the presentation, practice, and production framework. According to Batchelor, in order to progress, a foreign language lesson should be based on these three sections. This is a sequencing framework adapted to MFL lessons. The second teaching framework that greatly influenced my teaching is Barak-Rosenshine principles. As we can observe, those principles fit clearly within the presentation, practice, and production structure. Taking a closer look at the details of each section, we can see how, in the presentation phase, we establish the base of the learning, linking the prior knowledge with the new concept. As teachers, it is important to understand how memory works and how learning happens in this stage. Based on Daniel Willingham's diagram, Tom Sherrington suggests that our brain organizes the information into schemata. The new information is only stored if we can connect it to the knowledge that we already have. As a result, prior knowledge is a major factor in our capacity to learn new information. The main idea is to recall the bricks of information from the long-term memory to the working memory. This will help us to build the new knowledge. For example, I included in the starter activities that help students to recall the prior knowledge and settle them for the learning. I used the goldfish, dog, elephant structure, including activities to recall what they have learned during the last lesson, last week, and during the last term. Furthermore, the starter can help do a weekly or monthly review and check a student's progress. Following this, Rosenshine suggests to present the new material using small steps, chunking the information with student practice after each step. Presenting too much material at once may confuse students because their working memory will be unable to process it. The cognitive load is the amount of information that we have to process in working memory at any one time. In other words, if the load exceeds the working memory capacity, then learning stops. Another aspect that should be present, not only the presentation but also through the class or the lesson, is the questioning. Tom Sherrington suggests that the top 3 questioning strategies are cold calling, think, pair, share, and checking for understanding. The second phase is practice. In this stage, the students will practice what they have learned during the lesson. Rosenshine suggests that we must present achievable tasks for students and adapt it to their abilities. Therefore, too simple tasks do not promote learning. On the other hand, too complex activities become frustrating for the students. The teacher must guide the student practice and provide models and scaffolds for complex activities to help students develop their skills. Vygotsky's zone of proximal development is founded on the belief that what pupils can do in collaboration with others through conversation, discussion, negotiation, trial, and error. According to Vygotsky, in the zone of proximal development, we must guide the students' practice and support them during the task. One way to support the students is modeling the task and following the structure I do, we do, you do. This is a share of responsibility for task completion in the I do, we do, you do framework. We can observe that the first stage, I do, is the teacher's responsibility, modeling the task followed by the shared demonstration and guided practice. Then The independent practice is the student's responsibility. During the production phase, the students will produce material on their own based on what they have learned during the lesson. It is essential to include differentiation when planning the lesson. According to the teacher's standards, the teacher should know when and how to differentiate appropriately, using approaches which enables pupils to be taught effectively. So, we must create different levels of activities for different pupils based on their learning abilities to help them to make progress. The resource that I have chosen is called Correcto o Incorrecto. I used the resource in a 45 minutes Year 7 class. At the beginning of the lesson, I divided the class into two groups, and during the lesson, I gave positive points for correct answers and good behavior, and negative points for talking or calling out the answers. I kept the same groups and rules for the resource. The game's main objective is to find out the mistake and say if the sentence is correct or incorrect, in the target language explaining why. For this resource, I included the grammar learned during the class and vocabulary and grammar learned during the term to activate the student's long-term memory and link that knowledge with the new. In this game, the students have to read a sentence in Spanish, then translate it into English and say if the sentence is correct or incorrect in the target language. If the sentence is incorrect, the students will explain why and say the correct sentence. Why this resource? I have chosen this resource because it is a good retrieval practice exercise. This activity allowed me to revise the grammar and vocabulary taught during the lesson and over the term and check the students' understanding. I also checked the students' pronunciation when they were reading the sentence in the target language. The game has a competition element, so the students enjoyed the activity. Differentiation was included, mixing simple sentences with more complex ones. All ability students participated and raised their hands. With this resource, the students used the target language. And finally, the activity can be adapted to any year group. Evaluation. In my opinion, the students were engaged during the activity. The vast majority of them raised their hand and participated, including SEN students. The resource was helpful to check the pupils' understanding and their pronunciation. I could correct some mispronunciations and I invited the class to repeat the difficult words. Also, this resource was good to know if there was progress during the lesson. The observation that I have received from the teacher indicated that the students were engaged and keen to participate. Also, the teacher said that it was a good activity to check if the learning objective had been met. However, there were some aspects to improve. In my opinion, the vast majority of the students participated in the game. However, a few of them did not do it. I could improve the resource by creating smaller groups and doing pair or group work before the game. This would help all the students to participate. Finally, I would include numbers in each sentence. This would help the students practice the numbers and identify the sentence quicker. The observation that I have received from the teacher indicated that I should include the most common mistakes and tricky sentences. Also, the teacher recommended that the students should close their books during the game. Thank you for watching this video.